To start out, this hack involves holding the nut in place for long enough to line it up with the bolts. A piece of double-sided tape should do the trick. It's hard to hammer out these nails when the board keeps moving. Try hammering it through this hole in the plywood. To mark even lines on pipes and tubing, attach a metal to the side of this marker. Here's a quick way to make a DIY funnel. Simply attach a PVC pipe to the top half of a plastic bottle. If you can't decide between screws or nails, screws don't have the shear strength that nails have, so in this case, nails will be the better option. Here's a great way to store your chainsaw. Slice open some foam tubing, then wrap it around the chainsaw chain and secure it with some tape. Here's a little close-up of an interesting way to solder two wires together. Next, we'll build a flashlight using this rechargeable 12-volt drill battery. First, we'll cut out a slot for the on and off switch. Then we'll attach these disconnects to the LED wires and crimp them with a crimping tool. Drill a hole into the top of the flashlight and pass the LED wires through the hole. The wires should be able to reach the slot. Attach the on and off switch and press the switch into the slot. Attach the other ends of the wire to the battery. Now we just plug in the LED bulb. Let's take a look at some different types of anchors and how they actually anchor themselves into the wall from the other side. Here's a life hack that works on cheap locks. Slap the side of the lock with a magnet to release the latch and open the lock. If we fold over this nail with a pair of pliers and then repeat it a few times, we can make this beautiful piece of art. Although it's easy enough to make a straight line using a ruler, it's almost impossible to make a straight cut without using a guide. So let's make a guide for our jigsaw. Make a straight line across a board and mark the center of where the jigsaw blade is. Now drill a 1-inch hole centered on that mark. Cut the board in half along the straight line. And to make sure the edge is straight, we can plane off this inner edge. Remove the two bolts from one side of the jigsaw and lay down some double-sided tape. Lay the larger piece of board so that the smaller board can be lined up on the tape. Now we can drill holes into the board where the screws would go. Remove the board and drill larger holes for the longer screws. Now we'll screw the board into the bottom of the jigsaw and reinsert the blade. Next, we'll draw our line and clamp a board with its edge lined up to the mark. Now we have a guide that cuts right on the line every time. Here we have some old clippers. We can sharpen them by sliding a piece of fine grit sandpaper between the two blades. Turn on the clippers and move the sandpaper around to bring the blades back to their former sharpness. When sanding, sawdust can gather in corners and edges. To prevent this, we can place a drywall knife along the edge as we sand. Drilling holes directly into metal like this can leave a rough and uneven hole. By placing the metal sheet between two pieces of wood, drilling becomes much easier and neater. Sometimes our PVC pipe doesn't match the fitting. We can use this socket fusion tool to connect these pieces together. We'll use this for our selfie stick. Drill some screws into a small board so that your phone can slide in and out. Then mount a PVC clip onto the back. Now we can mount 2 more clips into the wall and attach our selfie stick. And if your camera isn't mounting to the wall like it should, you can rub some fresh garlic to the inside of the suction cup. Let's remove this plastic cover from this package of wet wipes. Add a bit of hot glue and stick it onto the outlet. Now we have a cover for our outlet. This screw keeps falling down. We can wrap it with some plastic wrap in order to make our life a bit easier. Next, we'll make a handle that keeps our broom from falling apart. Cut off the bottom of a plastic bottle and pass a cord through the cap and tie a knot like so. Put the bottle around the end of the broom and shrink the plastic using a heat gun. Now screw on the cap. After some sweeping, we can hang it up when we're done. Our pliers are a little too small to unscrew this. But what about if we use the other side? Use a magnet to organize drill bits. Sawdust often gathers in our toolboxes. We can remove it by putting some masking tape with holes on the end of this vacuum to act as a filter. We don't seem to have the right tool to remove this bolt. If we can trace the shape of the bolt onto this bottle cap, we can use it to help us unscrew the bolt. Using a hammer on wood is going to leave indentations. We can add some hot glue to the end of this hammer to act as a cushion and to protect the wood from being damaged. Unscrewing this nut using pliers can be a little tricky. We can pass a zip tie around the handles to give us a consistent grip as we pass it over the vise. Using a normal sander to sand the inner edges of this piece isn't going to work. We can solve this problem with a little bit of ingenuity. Apply some double-sided tape and sandpaper to the jigsaw blade like so. Now we can sand using our jigsaw. Hanging up disposable gloves like this will keep our hands clean during painting. Need some DIY plastic tubes? Start by cutting a plastic bottle into strips. Now we can pass the strips through this small hole and melt them a bit with a heat gun. We can cut the strips to any size that we like. And even place them into drywall to create anchors for screws. This old label just isn't coming off. We can use this DIY paint scraper to do the job. Our next project is making a can of spray paint using this plastic bottle. We'll attach a bike tire valve to the top of this plastic bottle. Then we'll cut off the top of this spray paint can and remove the inner tube. Then we'll pass the tube through the bottle cap and apply hot glue to seal it. Now we can screw on the cap and attach the nozzle. Fill the bottle with paint and pump it with air. Now it sprays. Using pliers will damage this metal rod. We can prevent any scratches by applying some hot glue to the teeth of the pliers. We can't remove this bottle cap with our bare hands, but we can use this plastic bottle to help us. Melt the top and flatten it out like so. Now we can pop the cap right off. Our cables are always falling off the table when we need them most. Let's attach a comb to the edge of this table to hold all of our cords. You can use a credit card to smooth out this bead of caulk for a clean, professional look. It's always difficult to solder tiny wires. Let's make a little stand. Wrap a rubber band around the handles of one pair of pliers. Place the capacitor in the jaws. Wrap a rubber band around the second pair of pliers and use those pliers to hold up the first pair. Now we can comfortably solder. A quick way to easily sharpen pencils is just by using a sander. We can use this orbital sander paper to draw a few different sized circles, as you can see here. We want to tie this rope around this tree, but which knot should we use? We'll keep things simple and just tie an overhand loop. Start with a simple overhand knot and wrap the rope around the tree. Then use the loose end to follow the path of the overhand knot. Pull it tight, and now you have a secure knot.